This is my clamp collection, and until this point it's kind of been stored all over the shop. I've got some on the pegboard, which I'd like to free up some more space. These big ones hang over there, and the Craigs, which are their weird sort of shape, live in the cupboard. I want to centralise most of them. Sadly, I'm not going to have space for the pipe clamps, because where I'm going to build my clamp rack is in this little void which I left when I designed my cupboards. Mostly going to be using Steve Ramsey's designs here. I have actually signed up to the Weekend Workshop. It is a paid course, it's not very expensive, and I don't basically want to rehash what he's showing there, because really, if you're interested in that sort of thing, I would highly recommend jumping on board. I am thoroughly enjoying it and learning a lot along the way. But I'm going to put my own twist on it, because obviously I've got my own space and I want to do some things a little bit differently, because space as usual for me is a premium. All going to be made out of scrap plywood. Let's try and get some of these clamps up and out of the way and improve the efficiency of this workshop a little bit more.
I say scrap, but what I often mean by that is scavenged. This is some 16mm plywood that I scabbed off the side of the road earlier this week, which will make up the backing board that I'm going to screw all the small clamp attachments to. Rip cut, making short work of it as usual. And yes, this video is going to be an awful lot of 10-inch Bosch Axial Glide miter saw. First project I'm using it. Again, just making things up as I go along. I'm trying to keep my fingers away from the blade and use various clamping techniques so that everything is held down nice and still. 300mm cut capacity on that, so I can go up to 600 doing a double cut, such as you just saw there. As this is scrap wood, I did have to sand it back. She was pretty dirty and mucky. Really simple construction for this backing board. I didn't want to drill it directly into the brick wall. I wanted it a little bit away. So just cut down quickly some spacers, many screw holes to secure the spacer to the backing board, and then a few larger holes to put into the bricks. Now I already had 1 or 2 holes pre-drilled and plugged, which were from a previous shelf hanging on the wall, and I wanted to reuse those if I could. There it is in the bottom right corner, so I lined up the board to that one hole. That allowed me to be able to mark out and drill the pilot holes in the brick for the new plugs that had to go in. Hammers. Is there anything they can't do? Well, yes, a lot actually, but as a clamp support, it helped. So there's my backing board, and that would just allow me to space out the smaller clamp modules, as I'll call them, anywhere I need them to be. Nice and solid. So the first module is going to be for these bar clamps. They're the Irwin quick release type, and my wide ones were 32.5mm, so that's the spacing I needed to work on. Here's more of that 12mm plywood that I am laminating together to give it the extra strength that it needs. Little spacer block just to make sure that the gaps are going to be correct, and they're about 6-ish mils for the bars to slot into. Again, you'll have to measure your own. Lovely thing about workshop projects, nothing has to be millimeter perfect. So I could just glue up the 2 boards, wait for them to dry, and then use a flush trimmer out a bit to pretty it all up. Might be a workshop project, but we don't need to be uncouth about these things. This style is also going to be handy for F-clamps and other bar style clamps too. You just have to measure them up carefully. Now I did try to cut these with the router, but you can probably notice a little burning there. That didn't work too well, wasn't a very clever idea, far too much work for a 5mm router bit to do. So I went back to the jigsaw table, drilled out the ends, and then simply cut the slits in. I was being a bit paranoid with the spacing, but honestly it doesn't matter that much. As long as they fit the clamps in, everything is all good. Just cleaning out the slots with a file. And then to get the clamps in easier, just taking the corners off the entry ports so that they will self-locate when you're in a bit of a hurry. Final sand and test fit, and the main support for the bar clamps is pretty much done. Now I can fit 9 in here. That was purely based on the space that I had available in between the cabinets. I didn't want to create too much extra space because then I'd just go and buy more clamps. but I have got a few spare slots on there. And they all fit in quite nice. Drill, glue and screw the backing board to the clamp rack holder. All simple butt joints here, doesn't need to be more complicated than that. I also had some square scrap lying around and I decided to add a few small braces. Now I just have to be careful with these, and you'll notice actually one of the pegs in that holder is slightly larger to ensure that the larger quick grip clamps wouldn't hit that support bracket. There she is, all done. Just needs to be attached to the wall. Part 2. So, as we saw before, those Craig C-type sort of clamps, about that, and I do have some other similar style clamps, and I am basically again going to use Steve's design pretty much to the letter here, and manufacture a dowel hanger, effectively. Backing board, couple of side plates. Ooh, getting to use the mitre function for the first time. And try out a few different things. Now, this was going to be a small cut, so I put a zero clearance fence clamped in there. And then I can use a stick to hold down my smaller pieces of wood and cut the 45 angle. And that worked very, very well. And a lovely shot of my arm at the same time. Recycling my dowel as well. This was an old broom handle that I keep around for just this thing. And now it's time to break the second Woodworking for Mere Mortals golden rule, which is, of course, never film yourself sanding a dowel. I don't know why Steve said that. Look at all that lovely sawdust coming off. I'm all masked up, it's perfectly safe. What's possibly wrong with filming yourself sanding a dowel? In slow motion. It's beautiful. Oh yeah, look at that. Pretty sawdust. And hell, it works. I need to get that down to 20 mils, which was the size of my Forstner bit that I was going to drill into, well, halfway through, those little side panels. I used a larger Forstner bit to space it accurately from the edge, and then went down, yeah, just about halfway, roughly that. So the way I put this together was just to attach one side, then to dry fit it together with my freshly sanded dowel. Yeah, it's a little bit more sanding, give it a tweak, make sure it fits in there comfortably. Smack it with a hammer. A few minor adjustments. I cut that dowel a little bit long and I could trim it down until it was the perfect fit. Then we could glue it all together. And my C-style clamp rack is the second part complete. That's strong. To attach it, I used the 5-screw method. I just came up with that, but it sounds impressive, doesn't it? Put a screw in the middle so that you can tweak it one way or the other with a level, and then screw the other 4 into the corners. Might be able to squeeze 1 or 2 more in there as well, but it's looking good. Now, I didn't even bother filming all of this. The final little clamp attachment for that backing board is just for some pinch clamps and my very small quick grip clamps. The only difference of this really is simple butt joints, simple braces, and a 12mm board up top instead of the 16. It was just a better fit for the quick grips. The best thing about that large backing board on the wall is I could carefully space everything out, and if I ever needed to move it, I'd be able to. Having broken golden rule number 2, I thought, why the hell not? Let's just go ahead and break the golden Woodworking for Mere Mortals rule. And here we have a perfectly lovely sided board put against the wall with the crappy side showing. Sorry, Steve. In the meantime, I've just gotten some email advice from YouTube saying that my video is at risk of being banned, so we've had to take some precautionary measures for the last little clamp attachment. No idea why. Anyway, my little knob is safe, so I'm just going to bash it with a hammer. Feels good. And attach it to the wall for my band clamp. I remember one time in band clamp. Wait, that's a different story. Stocked up and ready to go.
All done, and a tiny bit of room for a few more quick clamps that I'm planning to get in the near future. Also allowed me to get some of the tools that constantly hid under here and were hard to access up on the pegboard, because that's where the clamps used to live. So it's made me even more organised than just giving a convenient place to store the clampy things. Hope you enjoyed this quick build today. If you did enjoy the video, I invite you to please like and subscribe, just like everybody else does. Yes, I'm doing that now. I said I never would, but hey, why the hell not? Alright guys, we'll call that a day. Catch you around next week. See you then.